The music bed. I got to thank all of you for joining us. Wow.
I like that.
Yeah. Hey, Terrence, you like that, huh?
Yeah, man, I like that.
I got the host with the most because Ashley has just done an incredible job to pull this together. So I want to thank her right up front for all that she's done and for all of you who have taken the time to come in to join us today. It is a blessed day for us, and I can't thank you enough for joining in for the launch of the Jersey. So if I may, I'm going to introduce Ashley Pearson, who is going to be our moderator and host and technical person today. And just want to thank her for that. And what Ashley's going to be doing as well, if you have questions or things that you would like to bring up during the course of the book launch, please put them in. Ashley, is that in the chat?
Yes, exactly. So if y'all have any questions, we have a Q&A planned for the end. So we are live on YouTube and on Zoom. So on Zoom, there's the chat. Feel free to ask any questions throughout, and on YouTube as well in the comments or chat.
Superb. And I just saw Tracy show up. Tracy, okay, this is my Santa Clara connection here.
Yes,
Tracy, welcome.
Hi. I'm thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Tracy's at the University of Santa Clara, and she is getting the book, or will be getting the book, and she's even offered to do an article.
Yes.
For the Santa Clara magazine, and I can't thank her enough for that.
Correct.
Again.
I'm not online because I'm going to take notes during this whole thing and on another screen. So excuse me for not being online with you.
All right.
Okay. I'm going to the screen.
Do your thing.
I said Livestreamed.com.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all of that. Now, I don't see, and I will introduce some people that I think is going to be important as we go forward. One of the individuals that you're going to hear from very shortly, I did an interview clip session with a genealogist, Terrence White, and Terrence and I have had a similar journey from two different ends that I think you're going to enjoy seeing the clip that we were able to discuss his journey as well as my journey. But as well, I wanted to thank Ozzie Lyles, a high school classmate of mine who did the forward for the book. And Ozzie, thank you so much for that. I also want to thank Barbara Wilcox, as well as Dr. Leroy Graham for their comments relative to the book that it's on the back of the cover. And I can't thank Janet and Aaron Talbot. Just as a short aside, Ramona and I were in New York. We were having breakfast, and I always take the opportunity if I could tell someone about the storyline of the Jersey. And when Janet, who herself is a literary professional, was so intrigued by the story, she gave me so much of an encouragement to go forward. So I want to thank Janet and Aaron for their support along the journey. So what I like to do as well, because Ramona, she's sitting on the other side of this computer. She has been instrumental when she completed her book. And I said, wow, that is really something. She just said, well, you need to get it done. And she has been so supportive over the last few years of this project. So I can't thank Ramona enough for that. So let me repeat. I was thanking, as I saw pop up on the screen, Barbara Wilcox, who has been instrumental in her support of me along this journey. And Barbara was kind enough to write comments relative to the book. They're on the back cover for all to see. I can't thank Barbara enough with her duties as assistant provost at Regis College University in Denver. She's got more than enough stuff to do, but she took the time to read my book and to comment on it. So Barbara, thank you so much. And Dr. Leroy Graham, not quite certain if he's on, but he was also gracious enough to do that as well. So I want to turn it to our host, Ashley Pearson. And Ashley, how about we run the clip with the interview? And for some of you who just may have just come on, I was fortunate enough last week to have an interview session with the genealogist. His name is Terrence White, and he has done extensive research on the central character who in fact is the plot line of the book, and we'll talk a bit about that. So Ashley, if we could, can you run that? I know the date was 1988. Was that the first time you embarked on this journey with the?
That's right. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And what actually took you in that direction?
It's kind of an involved story. I'll try to make it as simple as I know how. I was researching my own paternal family, the White family.
Okay.
And I had in my hands a document that had been prepared by one of my long deceased cousins from many decades prior to my coming along on the scene. And this document spoke about one of my great uncles with the last name White. And it said that a town called Whitesburg, Georgia had been named for him.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I wanted to follow up that clue, see if there was any truth to it or not. So I did some considerable research around the subject of the town of Whitesburg, Georgia. It happens to be in Carroll County, which is just west of Metro Atlanta.
Okay.
There's the University of West Georgia at Carrollton. It's there now, close to Whitesburg in Carrollton.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out Whitesburg was in fact founded, and originally most of it was owned by one of my ancestors, but he wasn't a white. His name was Gilbert.
Gilbert, okay.
It's just a total odd coincidence that I happen to have a connection to the place anyway.
Okay, all right.
But it turns out that the town of Whitesburg was not, in fact, named for one of my relatives. It was named for Captain Andrew Jackson White, who turns out was the father of William Edward White and his two sisters.
So what the gentleman you saw there, Terrence White, he started on his journey in 1988. And how we came across each other, the article that actually started me on my journey started in 2004. And it started by an article that I read in the Wall Street Journal, and I don't know if you can see that, I'll keep it clear. And as you can see, the headline of the article was "Mystery of Baseball. Was William White Game's First Black?" So when I read that article in 2004, being an ex-professional baseball player myself and somewhat of an amateur genealogist, historian of baseball, I said, who in the heck is William Edward White? So as I read the article, and Terrence White contributed to that article, I immediately conjured in my mind a storyline for this book. And that storyline has not varied in the 16 plus years that I've worked on this book. And that's basically to, one, chronicle the event. And the event that what happened was, and this of course starts the storyline, is William Edward White was born as a slave in 1860, okay, in Milner, Georgia. The slave owner, Captain A.J. White, was in fact a colonel, a captain in the Confederate Army. He was a plantation owner, owned 70 slaves, of which one of the slaves was William Edward White's mother that was abducted from Washington, D.C., okay? And he was a railroad industrialist. And what he would do was buy plots of land in Georgia and would then run his railroad, which was the Central Railroad, through those towns. So he became quite wealthy and he was rolling the dice. So he went bankrupt one time, but then he accumulated more land. But he's very successful, Captain A.J. White, and he was in Milner, Georgia. So when I read the article, I thought as part of my research, I should find out a bit more about the family. So my grandson and I, a few years ago, made a trip to Milner, Georgia, which only happened to be 50 miles from Conyers. So we get to the cemetery, which is the only cemetery large. There's two cemeteries, one for the coloreds and one for the majority folks in Milner. This cemetery happens to be almost two miles square. So we arrive at the cemetery, and in fact, a gentleman doing landscaping, we indicated what we were there for. We're interested in this ball player, this individual that had played in the major leagues, played one game in the major leagues, okay, in 1879. He didn't know anything relative to the ball player. However, he encouraged us if we wanted to go out and walk the graves, the cemetery, we were more than happy to do that. He says, now, if you give me your number, I'll have the cemetery director get back with you and maybe he can give you some insight about this William Edward White, this one ball player that played in a Major League Baseball game, one game in 1879. So we went through the cemetery, my grandson and I, and at the far reaches of the cemetery, we found a headstone, a grave site, and it was Captain A.J. White. We thought we had hit the jackpot, that we had found the ball player, thinking it was A.J. White, William Edward White. So we took some photos. I'm on the ground with my arm around the headstone and all that sort of thing. And so we're making our way back. And I get a phone call from a gentleman who is, in fact, the cemetery director at the Milner Baptist Church, okay, in Milner, Georgia. And he indicated, hey, I understand that you fellows were there. You were looking for the ball player. He says, well, we're very familiar with who the ball player was. He said, but you got to understand things were a little different back then. And I said, well, how so? He says, well, Captain A.J. White, he says, you may have found his headstone. I said, yeah. He says, that's not the son. That is, in fact, the dad. Okay. And it is highly unlikely that the ball player would have been buried in this cemetery because, in fact, his mother petitioned the church after Captain A.J. White died in 1880 to be buried when she passed next to her husband. Her petition by the church was denied. And in fact, he indicated that she was buried in the colored cemetery in an unmarked grave. So needless to say, we did not find the ball player in the cemetery. But then he laid something on me. He says, oh, and by the way, I think I can help you find your ball player where in fact he is laid to rest. I said, how so? He says, I'll send you a link. When you get home, check it out. So we got home and the link he sent me, and I've shared this story with many of you, is the link was findagrave.com. And I went on that site, and interesting enough, you obviously have to know the name of the person you're looking for, but you do have to know their either birth year or death year. I knew neither. That's Ramona's phone. Yes, your phone, yeah, turn. Okay, so, but he was a junior at Brown University in 1879. So I guessed that he would have been either 19 or 20. So I juggled with the age. came up at 1860 as a birth date, and voila. I came up with all the particulars as to who William Edward White was, his bio, what happened to him when he left Brown University without getting his degree in 1880, okay, and migrated to Chicago, okay, became a draftsman. So that information was all in that website. So that was extremely helpful. And matter of fact, Ramona and I made a trip to Chicago, to Elmwood Cemetery. And I do have photos in the book that chronicle our visit to that cemetery. So those are some of the basis of launch for that book. So it is based on a true event. However, from that point on, after this young man who played baseball at Brown University, and for the national championship team for Brown in 1879, that summer on June 21st, 1879, he attended a Major League Baseball game in Providence, Rhode Island, that was between the Providence Grays and the Cleveland Blues. Just prior to the game, the first baseman for the Providence Grays breaks his ankle. They do not have another first baseman on the roster. They looked in the stands, saw this young man, William Edward White, knew he had played for Brown, knew he was a first baseman. They pulled him out of the stands, signed him to a one-day contract, suited him up. He played in the game, got 4 at-bats, 1 hit, fielded 12 ground balls successfully. That is all chronicled in the Encyclopedia of Major League Baseball Players. So he has, in fact, one line that covers all of his statistics. So from a genealogy standpoint, William Edward White is the first slave as well as the first person of color to play in the major leagues. That is undisputable, okay? So from that, after the conclusion of the game, certain events, certain dialogue, are all fictionalized for dramatization, okay? So you've got a storyline that picks up right from there. And quite honestly, as I call it, my elevator speech, it is in fact a storyline that talks about how it is post Emancipation Proclamation, how it is for certain individuals that were of a certain hue that could pass were choosing to do so. And there were many, okay? And William Edward White, in fact, did just that. When he left Brown University in 1880 without his degree, migrating to Chicago, becoming a draftsman, in his school records, it indicated race white, okay? Also for the 1910 and the 1920 census, okay, indicating him as race white as well. So there's no question he was passing, and that something happened along the way, which we have not been able to determine, because when he passed on February 14th, 1937, in Chicago, he slipped on a icy curb, sustained injuries, and he died 2 weeks later, okay? His address of record was a hotel, okay, that was a $5 a day hotel or $25 a day hotel in Chicago. So he was actually living in a flop house in Chicago. So something happened along the way, which we were not able to determine. But in the storyline of the book, which of course is fictionalized, you're going to see not only a story about what people were going through at that point in time in the way of passing, you're also going to see a story about sisterhood and how dynamic, high-powered she-roles are able to accomplish something in a corporate setting that you wouldn't imagine. So stay tuned for that. And also there's a love story there. So stay tuned for that as well. So that is pretty much the plot line of the book, okay? And it takes several little twists and turns, but I think from the storyline, I think you will enjoy it. It's a great read, and I just can't thank all of you for the energy that you have put in to give me the encouragement and the editing that in particular that 3G Publishing, but most importantly, the editing that Ramona did. She went through that book line by line, and I got to tell you something. I'm a storyteller. I'm not a writer. I don't make claim to that. As far as grammar, punctuation, Ramona knows it, and she was very gracious in doing that. The book is not perfect, not claiming to be, but I think you'll enjoy the read, okay? So having said that, we got a little special tidbit we'd like to be able to show, and I'm going to turn it back to the host moderator, Ashley. And Ashley, how about we talk a little bit or pull up that piece on Hattie? How about that?
I followed Billy Joe to Captain's office while chatting lighthearted about the weather. It was a bright and sunny day, one of those that guaranteed long hours of cotton picking. After he put the bag down, I thanked him and immediately began sorting through the mail. He turned to leave the office and told me to have a good day. After a quick viewing of the mail, I determined there weren't any of the Bill's special letters addressed to Captain. There was, however, a letter addressed to Captain AJ from Providence, Rhode Island Police Department that caused me to catch my breath. I was afraid to open it because it surely carried bad news. I had no choice. I needed to know if my boy was in trouble and needed help. This had to be about him because his school was in Providence, Rhode Island. Who else from there would write to Captain? Bill had only completed his 3rd year of schooling. What could this letter mean? I decided to take the letter with me. After dinner, once Captain AJ retired to his room with his favorite bottle of whiskey in tow, I made my escape to my secret place in the attic to read the letter from the Providence, Rhode Island Police Department. I lit the candle in the attic and began to frantically tear open the envelope. The letter from the Providence, Rhode Island Chief of Police, Alonzo Patrick. Chief Patrick said he's sorry on behalf of the entire Providence police community. What he's sorry about? He say my son been missing from the campus for over 10 days. And the last time he was seen by anyone was following the Providence Grays baseball game the Saturday before last. Oh my Lord, my boy is missing.
Well, you can see there's talent there, and that is my sister-in-law, Julie Strane, that provided the voice for Miss Hattie. And that was so inspirational. And I will just tell you as a side note, as Ramona and I were making our drive trip down from Detroit to Austin, I had a very interesting conversation with a gentleman who has offered to work with me to turn my book into an audio book, and he strongly suggested that. So that is something that we're going to pursue, and you can rest assured that you'll hear more of Julie's voice in that book. So thank you, Julie, for that and all your support as well. But that just kind of, that is in essence what you just heard out of the prologue in the book, okay? Would like to say, so far, the progress on the book, the pre-orders on the book have gone well. The books, I'm anxiously awaiting for the books to get in my hand, which we anticipate those books coming from the printer any day. And for those of you who have ordered books and are for autographed copies, I will be doing that, and we will get those in the mail shortly. So thank you again for all your support. And I just ask for all of the ambassadors, which I've personally adopted all of you as ambassadors, that if you like the book and you think you want to support it, if you would, most of you have extensive contacts and networks, please pass it on. I'd like to be able to share that with as many people as you can understand as possible. So thank you for that in that regard. Another side note, I did have someone who started the effort in putting together a screenplay. And I saw some really good things in it. But I think, and I will just say, in writing the book, in writing the Jersey, and again, being a storyteller, storytellers have a sense of writing as if the book or the movie or the play is in their mind's eye. And that's how the book was written. So it's very cinematic, and we will be looking to do a screenplay developing that as well. So please look for those elements. The audio book is a definite, we're going to get that out. My understanding in talking to my publisher, 3G Publishing, and talking to Myra Gayle yesterday, that the Kindle, the ebook, should be dropped. If it's not there as well, it certainly would be there here shortly. The books are available through the distributor, okay, as well as directly through my website, through 3G Publishing, through Amazon, however, whatever book retailers that you typically might use or anyone might use, the book is there as well. So that's pretty the extent of what's happening in the way of progress on the book and the book sales. Now, Ashley, did we get any questions, or anybody have anything that that came in on your side? Or we can just have some folks, if they have any questions or anything they'd like to know, they can just shout out.
Yes, absolutely.
Your way.
If anyone has any questions, please feel free to type in the chat, or if you want, I think people have been unmuting themselves, and so you can ask questions that way too. But we did have a question from Terrence Keith, and he asked if William, they knew he was colored at the time they brought him to the game, and who figured out he had played in the game, and how did people react when it was discovered?
Terrence, hey, my man, that's a great question. Terrence, I will tell you that everything on his school records, everything, and I will tell you, I'm going to put this up. Now, this photo, let me get it square here. This photo is a team photo that in essence appeared in the athletic center at Brown University. And although this is colorized in black and white, William Edward White, which is, you have a gentleman in a, let me get it here, gentleman in the suit, which is the manager, and the individual who is William Edward White is of a slightly different hue. He has a cap on, a hat on, and no, he was actually passing, okay, and very protective of that. And in his true life, he, for a good period of time while he was in Chicago, was very successful. But something happened, and even in my conversation with the genealogist, in trying to uncover family members, and he was able to uncover a great granddaughter in an interview that was recorded. And the granddaughter's comments were, it was not something that I would want to reach out to her. Her comment to the interviewer about William Edward White, to the best of her knowledge, had her great-great-grandmother known he was a man of color, okay? And that's putting it lightly, that was not her words. She would have kicked him out, okay? So it was not someone that I would necessarily want to reach out to discuss my book. I will tell you that in Terrence's White's research as to the White family, okay, that Captain A.J. White was related, and they say a lot of people related to George Washington. He was, in fact, a fifth cousin of George Washington. So, no, he was successful in passing for many years, but something happened. We weren't able to, at least to this point, ascertain what happened in his life that flipped his life. So, but Terrence, I appreciate you asking that question.
Was there an effort to cover it up once it was discovered?
You know, Terrence, great question. And tell you what happened. I reached out to Brown University. I did talk to someone in their admissions department, because one of the things that really puzzled me is, having been an ex-ball player myself, once it's in your genes, you don't want to walk away from it. And here's a kid that his education was being paid for. So when I approached Brown, as well as I approached NC2A, I said, well, what happened to this guy? And they said, well, we can tell you, the Brown University said, we can tell you he was a student. We can tell you he was a baseball player. We can tell you he left college in 1880 without obtaining his degree. But everything at Brown indicated he was of the white race. The other thing is the NC2A, when I went to ask them what they showed as to was he sanctioned and lost his eligibility? Okay. I asked them and they said, well, we can't determine that, but we will tell you that he did play. He did play for the Brown University national championship, whatever, to the extent that was in 1879. So they were not able to confer or deny what happened to him afterwards. But it is a fascinating story. And one of the things that I'm very careful in the book is to acknowledge, obviously, Jackie Robinson and all the individuals that were the first. This does not diminish their accomplishment one iota. But what it does say is, in my view, that you have an individual who was mixed race, who was a mulatto kid, okay, that and we talk about wearing the mask, he had to do that. And one of the things in my interview with Terrence White was, he said he was able to uncover a lady in Milner, Georgia, and she remembered, she was 88, in 1988, she was 90 years old. And she could remember, they call her Miss Hattie, attending the church, and she was a fair-skinned lady herself. They allowed her to attend the church. She sat on the back pew by herself, okay? But what they were able to determine is that none of the kids, except for the one daughter, the youngest daughter, returned one time. But once the kids, they went to boarding school, and then William Edward White went to Brown University, they never came back, never communicated, never came back, okay? So that's unfortunate when you think about if one were passing, they have to cut all ties, can't afford any missteps. And for a good period of time, it appears that William Edward White was able to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Terrence.
Yep.
All right. Any other thoughts or concerns or questions?
Yeah,
Yeah, Sterling.
this is not a thought or concern, just an observation for what it's worth. I don't know that you remember this, but I was born and raised in Providence, Rhode Island.
I did. Hey, Sterling, why now? Why are you telling me that now? I didn't realize that. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah,
Wow.
Born and raised there. And as you know, since we both shared careers at General Motors, I was relocated 13 times.
Right.
I can tell you that over the course of those moves and in comparison with where I grew up, Providence, Rhode Island is one of the most racist places that I ever lived in my life.
Whoa.
Additionally, I'm one of 6 children, and all the siblings share the same parents. But the way it went down for us is that the delivering physician filled out the birth certificates, and of the 6 children, 2 are Caucasian, 2 are Native American, and 2 of us are Black.
Now, hold up now. Okay, who's the strongest in that? Okay.
I am one of the 2 whose birth certificate reads Caucasian.
Okay, okay,
Because when I was born, I had blondish hair and
okay,
fair complexion, mulatto.
yeah.
You also know I've never tried to pass.
No, to the contrary. Yeah.
Well, that's my observation, just for what it's worth.
Oh, my goodness, great. Hey,
Very familiar with Brown University.
oh, wow. Hey, I got to tell you something. For all of you who have not met Sterling or know Sterling, Sterling and I came up through the ranks of General Motors. He was pretty much in his career Chevrolet, and I was Pontiac. But we both ended up around the board table at Cadillac at one point in time. And if you want to have a brother that looks after your back, you want Sterling. I came over to Cadillac division, I think it was in 94 or 6. And I'm in my first big meeting at General Motors with Cadillac. We're in Detroit and they got the boardroom. And for all of you on the corporate side, the head guy sits at the head of the table. His lieutenant sit on each side of him, and Sterling was one of the top lieutenants. So we're having this conversation about something. It wasn't all that big. And it was like wheat. All these guys, all white, we're talking about something in the green with the head guy. They got to me, and I'm like newest guy, and I said, fellas, I got to tell you, I'm new to Cadillac. I don't really see it this way. I think we got a product that's long in the tooth, and people ain't buying the product. So we have to figure out a way what we're gonna do in that regard. And boy, the room got so quiet you could hear a fly land on the table. So the discussion continued on, and it got to Sterling. And Sterling sitting next to the boss, second lieutenant. Sterling said, hell, I got to agree with Al. What the hell are you guys thinking about? Whoa, I want to tell you something. You talking about a rule, but Sterling he would do that. His whole career, General Motors like that. I mean, you talk about going against the tide, okay? Of course, they recognize the talent. I don't know when they sent Sterling out to Stanford University as a scholar. I don't know if it was like, let's get him out to Stanford. This guy's causing too much heat. But he did get his master's at Stanford. General Motors paid for it, and I can just tell you numerous stories about how Sterling has had the back of not only me but my family. So, Sterling, thank you for the comments in that regard.
Thank you, Al.
This is all good. All right. Any other thoughts? I want to tell you, I will say this, just looking at the screen and all of your names, I can see my good friend, lifelong friend out in California, Charlene, Washington, and Gayle Bello is here. My good long friend, not only friend, but my family. Gayle's being my family, and I'm gonna ask y'all to send your prayers out for Gayle. She's going through some health issues, so she can get prayers. All right. Charlene, you popped up on the screen. What were you getting ready to say?
How come we can't see everybody?
You can see me?
Oh, we can't see all the participants.
I know that.
Oh, you don't want us to? You don't want us to?
Oh, no. Hey, Charlene, I am so thankful that I popped up on the screen.
I know that.
If it wasn't for Ashley, and Ramona just showing up on the screen. She's sitting on the other side of this computer. But
I see she has her mask on.
I know, but I can't talk with my mask on. I can't talk, period. But Jacqueline Hall Keith, thank you so much for joining in. And I can see Ronnie Marco there. Ronnie Marco, my softball buddy back in the late 80s, him and Dwight Phillips. So, boy, I tell you.
Hey, my brother, congratulations.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much for that. And hey.
All right, you're welcome.
Hey, if you guys are blues fan, you got to check out Bad Man Keith. Okay, Luther Keith is on here, and he plays a mean guitar.
Well,
so check him out.
Well, thank you for the plug, Al. But I first want to say congratulations on the book. As a baseball fan and student of history, I'm looking forward to reading it. Have you thought about converting this to a screenplay, and who's going to be the lead actor?
Well, it's interesting. Hey, yes and yes. Ramona and I were down in Baltimore, and Ramona, come on that side of this camera here. Oh, she can't be seen. Okay, all right. Ramona. So we're having dinner with some very good friends of hers, and she, as she was finishing at Morgan State, there's a young lady, kid at the time, that she knew who was a prominent actress, and her husband. And Ramona, they are Nikki Parker, and her husband is Boris. And for the main characters, I will tell you the main character. They played in what movie? Soul. Yeah, they starred in the movie Soul Food, and
Oh yeah. Yep.
I've seen Boris on Broadway as well.
Yep.
But the two characters that you read the book, the love interest characters, they would be perfect for that. So not only have I figured that out, that is something that I really would like to pursue, because the book is very thematic in that regard.
Okay, I'm available for a scene with the juke in the juke joint with a band, blues band.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you something. Now, I'm gonna throw something out here, and Ronnie Marco, you can appreciate this, and Dwight and Bert. Because both Terrence, their brothers, Terrence and Luther, I said to Luther, I said, hey, Luther, the weather's nice, man. Let's just go out and play some catch. I got some balls, and we just go out and play. Luther said, that's a great idea. Now, that was in the summer. Hell, it's 20 degrees or 30 degrees.
That was the last nice day of the year.
So I'm gonna see. I know that both Terrence and Luther played baseball as kids. We're gonna just get out, and we're gonna try not to hurt each other. But I got all the stuff, so it's still in my genes. That's why I couldn't figure out, doing my research, how could a kid that played baseball just walk away from it? Mm-hmm. So something had, the other thing is, something had to happen at the university, right, that would cause him to leave. Something. But neither Brown University nor NC2A could expand on that. So.
And you only played the one game. You didn't play a second game or none of that?
Now check this out. Now, you guys remember the story about Lou Gehrig? When Lou Gehrig came in for, I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name for the Yankees. He came in and played.
Yeah.
And then the other guy never played again.
Wally Pip.
Wally
Pip.
Okay. Yep. So if you go in and you look in the annals of Major League Baseball, the gentleman that played the next game at first base for the Providence Grays was named Jim O'Rourke. And Sterling will know this. There's a guy that we work with at General Motors named Don O'Rourke, and I reached out to him to see if he was a relative. But Jim O'Rourke came in the next day. He is in the Hall of Fame. There's no question about it. But you got to read the story. I don't get too much into that as to what happened to the Providence Grays after that. But I am suited up. So all you guys know, I am suited up today to recognize that. The other thing I just thought about, you see the background? I'll slide over.
Yes.
This painting is by Kadir Nelson, okay? Kadir Nelson is a very accomplished artist. His paintings are world-renowned. This happens to be out of his book. I have the painting. I did approach him to do the cover, or at least having this photo, this painting part of the cover. I knew I was out of my league when his publishers came back and said, hey, we'd be more than happy to do that. What's your budget? When he asked about budget, I said, well, I need to check out on this. So that is not the cover of the book. The book is, as many of you have already seen, let me get it here. That is the cover. Clean and simple, the jersey. So there's been some twists and turns on this. And Kadir Nelson, matter of fact, he just did a piece that I would encourage you all to take a look at it. And it's a little sister, I think, who just was at the voting poll or something like that. But very accomplished artist, well worth his due. And if I'd have used it for the cover, I should have been paying him. So didn't have a budget for that. Next book, though. Next book. And I will tell you, there is another book in the offering, and it is a spin-off of this book with a heck of a lot more intrigue as well. I just got to find somebody who's a gambler who knows the inside on sports betting. And once I get my research done on that, I'm off and going on the next book. Okay.
What did he do when he moved to Chicago? How did he live?
He was a draftsman, so more not a trained architect, but he was a draftsman.
Okay.
And for a period of time, he started a family. Was married one time, had 3 kids. So all indication was he was living a fairly modest life in Chicago. And I will tell you that when Ramona and I visit the cemetery, which you're going to see the photos of that, when I visited the cemetery, the young lady there, young sister, she pulls out this big, huge book. Everything is handwritten in there. So when she pulled the book out and was writing down the plot number that Ramona and I would walk out and find his gravesite, I kind of leaned over the counter, and it's kind of tough to read when you're reading upside down. I was really interested to see who paid for that plot, maybe giving me insight as to a family member. But my reading upside down didn't work too well.
You're not a lawyer.
Yeah, see, reading upside down. Thank you for that, Terrence. Judge Terrence Key. Okay. Any other thoughts?
I have a question for you.
Ashley, please.
Just as far as, because I think you said yourself, you said you're a storyteller and not a writer. So just in terms of the process for actually sitting down, because it's no easy task, as far as I know, to sit down and pen a book from start to finish. It's easy to get ideas sometimes, but that process, how was it for you?
It was at times easy, but along the journey it was tough in that when you write certain scenes, books are scenes. And basically what you have to do is you got to connect those scenes, okay? So over the 16 years, I would call it a chapter, but it would pretty much would be a scene, write a scene, and then kind of set it down, and then I would pick it back up. What I found to be difficult was, one, keeping the storyline somewhat flowing from scene to scene. So that connectivity, all right? And one of the things that Janet Hill was so encouraging, is she says, give it time. When the time is right, it'll link together. And she was so right. From a storyteller standpoint. Now, to do this over again, I would write the story and I probably would give it to a ghostwriter and said, okay, you put pen to paper. Okay, that's probably what I would do. In the next book, I may take that on because I've got a great story for the next book that is multi-layered, and that's what you're gonna find in the Jersey. It's multi-layered. You've got several different plot lines going till about 2/3 of the book, and all the plot lines do come together and coalesce. So it's layered. And that sometimes that can be difficult as well. But I wanted to do that, to layer it out so it wouldn't just be a chronological story. It's layered out back and forth. So which should help it be more cinematic as well. I don't know if that answers your question, Ashley, but I appreciate you asking.
That definitely did. Thank you.
Yeah. So any other thoughts? Okay. Now, what I'd like to do, hey, Ash, can we eliminate the background? Because I want to show, I'm at my cousin's house here in Austin, Texas, just off the lake, over a canyon. And I just kind of want to show everybody the view because it is a spectacular view.
Can you have your local technician come in and
Oh, no, I'm not gonna bring Ramona in. I ain't gonna do that. Oh, no.
Well, we can hear her anyway.
Ramona, your daughter is asking you for your presence. Okay, so we're gonna see if we can do this. And I can't thank all of you for taking the time. It's kind of been like a family reunion here. It is really something.
It's been great to see everybody.
Well, it would, hey, I don't know, Ashley, how does one do that? Hey, Linda.
You should be able to turn on your video now. So let's do a little test, actually. Anyone who wants to be seen. Oh, there we go.
All right, hey.
I don't see nobody.
Hey, that's Lucy, the blues player there.
I can't see nobody.
Okay. All right.
Only Al. Nope.
Well, you see Luther in the top left. Here's Ramona coming in. Come back over here, hon.
For the 100th time.
Okay, finally.
There's Charlene. Charlene and I grew up together.
Where's everybody? I know.
Oh, my God.
Charlene had that question real early on.
Hey, and there's Dwight Phillips. Oh, boy, I tell you.
Where's
Jacqueline.
Bert and Julie? Bert on there?
I think he's on here someplace. And there's Barbara Gray, third, and Gary.
Gayle, turn yours on.
And there's Mildred. We're at her home. And hey, Luther's got the sunrise. Luther's at the sun. Terrence, is that the sunrise or the sunset? All right, and there's Sterling. All right, thank you. Hey, for all of you who can see Sterling's photo there, that is his artwork in the background.
We can't see nothing now but you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
You have to click us all on.
How do you do that, Ash?
So it's actually, he has a virtual background up, the beautiful painting, but do you see that stop video button? Don't press it, but there's a little arrow next to it.
That should be able to get us all on. You see that, Al?
Okay, where does it appear, Ash?
It's next to the arrow next to the stop video.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Choose your virtual background, and you can take that off.
Choose it. Okay.
Take that off.
Let's see. Who am I neglecting in the chat?
Here we are.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, Al, I was going to say that, yes, that's a photo from Belle Isle. It's a sunrise.
Wow, that is beautiful. Well, now Terrence has a beautiful desk coffee top book that he produced of Detroit. It is magnificent. He is an incredible photographer.
Mm-hmm. It's called Sunrise Detroit.
Sunrise Detroit. Check it out.
Yep, thank you, Al.
It sits prominently in our living room, I can tell you.
Thanks.
And Sterling's piece there. Sterling, is that a wood or is that, what is the, of your piece there in the background, Sterling? What is that? You got to turn on your audio. Or do I take him off?
No, Ash can take him off.
Ashley, can you
I'll make sure.
Take Sterling.
There we go.
There you go. Hey, Sterling, tell us about your piece right there in the background there.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, the piece in the background was from a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet of MDF fiberboard.
Okay. And can you swerve your video around to show some of the other work?
I can. So the one that you're looking at right now?
Yeah.
is 8 feet tall and 8 feet wide.
Whoa.
And you see this one right here?
Yeah.
That's 39 inches wide and 13 feet tall.
And what is the material that they're on?
I painted a piece of 4 foot by 8 foot sheet from Home Depot. Fiberboard. So it's like wood.
Okay, all right.
Manufactured wood that I spray painted.
Okay.
And let's see. Can you see that one?
Yes.
Same kind of material and spray painted. We've got over 100 pieces around the house.
Wow, I tell you, we've spent time at their home. It is beautiful. It's decorated fully with art. And his wife, Vanessa, is an artist as well, and a jewelry maker. Yeah.
Correct.
Super. Jacqueline, thank you for being. Now, Luther's in, where's Luther? Downstairs? Where's Luther? He's downstairs. All right, okay.
He's in a man cave.
Yeah, and you all can see my cousin Mildred. We're at their home, and we're gonna do a real.
You have to include everybody.
Lake Travis is in the background. Linda.
Can you hear us?
Now I see Gayle.
Now you see us. Okay, I don't know what was going on. Ashley didn't turn us on. It's all your fault, Ashley.
I'm so sorry. I'm dealing with all the technical assistance. I'm doing the best I can.
I know.
Is there a way to turn the whole screen on to see everybody at once?
Yes.
You can see everybody now.
No, we don't see.
Hey Ash, if I want to pick this up and show them this beautiful view
Just walk around.
off of Lake Travis, and we're sitting on the side of a cliff, well, the house is standing good. Let me see something here.
Got to turn the whole computer around.
You have to flip your screen.
Okay, do what with my screen?
360.
Are you on a desktop?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, now we see Ramona.
No, we're on a laptop.
Oh, you're on a laptop. Okay, well, face your laptop. Turn your laptop around.
Okay.
You don't have any wires, right? Right. There you
So
go.
now you have the technical assistance of a whole team and not just you.
Okay, so you can see it, actually it's raining out here, but this is the lake, their house, Lake Travis, that their house overlooks.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. I'm glad I got to see it when I came to Austin.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Look at that.
Where's Booty?
Beautiful.
I want to tell you something. So as you can see, all right, this is where I think the light's not going to show well there.
Is that Mildred back there?
That's me.
That's
Hi,
Mildred.
Mildred.
Hey, Mildred.
Where'd you go, Gayle?
I'm here. Can you see?
Okay.
No.
Oh.
You're off the screen again. There you are. Oh.
There I am.
Ramona said, don't walk backwards.
Hey, down there.
Okay.
Well, that's weird. We can't all be on. Let's see. It's got to be some kind of way.
They're all ready for the Christmas holiday.
Yeah, I put
Nice.
mine up on Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
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 You just
Yeah.
joined.
Well, thank you. And this is Aunt Beulah here. Aunt Beulah, Ray.
Where's Aunt Beulah? Oh, look at her.
There she is.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Look at the family there, boy.
Hi, Miss Beulah.
Oh, that's nice.
Now.
Truly a family affair. All right. All right. Well, hey, we're gonna sign off. And oh, hey, Vanessa. Hey, girl, how you doing?
Good, honey. Congratulations.
I want to tell you, this has been a real special day for me. Hey, Sterling, check this out. When Ramona and I, we drove like 1,500 miles to get down here to Austin. And we took our time. We're very cautious and that sort of thing. So last night we get in, we check into this Airbnb, nice place, really nice. The guy whose place we're staying in, I noticed he wore a t-shirt that said MS something 2 sports. I said, oh, sports, motorsports. I said, oh, you're in the cars? He said, oh yeah, he says, I work for a race team and I do Ferraris and Lamborghinis around the world. I said, oh. I said, if you want to bring one of them things back, I'll move my caddy downstairs. You can put it here. So in any event, so we're going out to dinner last night with Leora. We're going to And
Hey, Al, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I got one last thing to add, a couple of last things to add. I'm gonna give you some marketing advice, and I'm gonna give you it to you for free.
Free.
I'm gonna give you some marketing advice for free.
I like that 4-letter word.
This time is Al. This time is free. This time, okay. You can hear me, right?
I got you.
Let him finish the story.
Okay. You may have not thought it out. You may think about it. Think about Black History Month is coming. People are always looking for new Black history stories because they think they all been told. This is a fantastic one to hit all the media with. Untold Black history story written by a Detroit transplant, GM executive, all that kind of stuff. That also, you got to go to ESPN with this story and get on ESPN. Get one of them shows, get you on there, tell this story. Baseball season will be starting next year again. I just think you got a great product story to market and take advantage of those. Because people, back when I was at the newspaper, we were always looking for new Black history stories to write about. You got Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, you know, and it's harder to find. This is a great example that all the Black history has not been told. And this book is a great way to bring something new to that discussion. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Well, I'll take it for a nickel. All right. Now, for all of you who don't know Luther King, bad man here. Okay, he was the editor, sports editor. He was the editor of the Detroit News. Yeah, so he's speaking truth here. So I appreciate that, and you and I are going to have a continued discussion on that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Linda.
Yeah, another thing. How are you doing? I couldn't get unmuted for a while.
Sorry.
But anyhow, I was thinking the National Negro League last year before COVID hit was going to have this 100-year celebration.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if you get with, I can't remember his name. He did a presentation in Denver. And that would be a good opportunity because I'm sure they're going to celebrate as soon as we get past this crisis. But that would be a good opportunity for you.
Linda, you're speaking truth here. Now, I'll tell you what's happening in that regard. I have had a conversation with Bob Kendricks, who's the CEO of the Negro League Museum. Okay. And he has agreed that they will stock my book in the bookstore.
All right.
Oh, good.
Now, what he did, I left a message for him 2 days ago and said, okay, it's all done. Here's the link. I need to talk to you further because my next book deals with the museum. But what I'm doing is the screenplay, okay? The screenplay will open up at the museum. And let me give you a sense of that. You heard on Hattie talking about receiving the letter about her son being missing, the baseball player. In my mind's eye, how the movie starts is you've got a father and son that's at the Negro League Museum. And they're walking through the museum and you see a museum plaque that says the first. And of course, you're gonna have Jackie Robinson, Larry Doby, those players, okay? But then there's going to be this little area there that talks about this guy named William Edward White, okay? And then it's going to dissolve into in essence, the forward of the book, and we're going to start the story that way. And the end of the story is Bob Kendricks, the CEO, will come in, and he, in fact, will then tell the kid, he says, hey, a lot of people don't know too much about this guy, but he's really the first, okay? Now, we just had someone join us right now, the genealogist, Terrence White, who did extensive research on William Edward White and Captain A.J. White. He just joined us. Now, I gotta tell you, Terrence, we played the clip, and Terrence is a cross-country hauler, truck driver. Now, Terrence, are you parked or are you driving?
I am parked, yes.
Thank God. But Terrence, please say hello to the folks. We played the clip about your journey, but if you would, give them a little insight about Mrs. Dominguez in your interaction, how you even discovered the Dominguez lady in your interview, if you would.
Yeah, first of all, can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, very good. Well, I'm just an ordinary Joe. Like Al says, I'm a truck driver. I just happened to do genealogy in my spare time, and back then I had a lot more of it because I was a lot younger. But I was researching this particular family of Whites because at the time I thought I might be related to them. So that's just what any good genealogist will do, right? Well, it turns out I'm not related to them. But in the process of researching William Edward White's father, Captain Andrew White, I ran into Mrs. Sally Domingos down at the First Baptist Church in Milner, Georgia. And she was part of the committee of maybe 2 or 3 people that put together the history of Milner Baptist Church, which they had printed up and which I have a copy of. So as soon as I spoke with the pastor there and told him what I was about, he said, "Oh, you need to talk to Sally Domingos." And Jack Morgan, he was another old gentleman that was part of that same history committee. And it turns out that the 2 of those people, Jack Morgan and Sally Domingos, were probably among the handful of remaining people that were still alive in 1988 who actually remembered William Edward White's mother, Hannah. They knew her from when they were small children. So I was very, very lucky to be the right person at the right place at the right time to meet Sally Domingos and Jack Morgan.
Well, that's great.
And that's basically it in a nutshell right there.
So,
well, go ahead, Terrence.
So had you not had that conversation, would this story never have been revealed?
Well, William Edward White would have still been revealed as the probable first ever African-American Major League Baseball player, yes, even though he only played 1 game, even though he only filled in during that 1 game.
I mean, how else would that story have come to light had you not had that conversation with them?
Well, there is a historical record of his having played that game in 1879 with the Providence Grays. He's on record as having been a student at Brown in Providence, Rhode Island. There were several sports columns in newspapers around the country that actually covered that game and reported on it the next morning, and mentioned him prominently.
But as a substitute player or as a colored player playing in the game? That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. You know, one thing
he would have been noted as a substitute player.
Yeah.
I doubt anyone would have picked up on the fact that he was mixed race, though. That could have been because of well, I know Mark Arslan did. He's a genealogist also. He was mentioned in the one of the, I think, the Wall Street Journal article that came out in 2004. So he actually had been researching William Edward White directly, specifically. So somehow Mark Arslan had cottoned on to the idea that William Edward White was mixed race.
Got it.
Of course, I already knew that, but I did not know at the time that he was a ball player. I had no idea, but I knew he was mixed race.
Yeah.
So it was a matter of putting all the pieces together, really.
Okay.
And of course, there was Peter Morris of the Society for Baseball Research, SABR. He's a very good researcher. He also got together with Mark Arslan, and between the 2 of them, they had pretty much pieced all this together. And then they found my article and contacted me. And Stephen Fatsis with the, he was a writer with the Wall Street Journal, the one that wrote the original article. He also contacted me. So I communicated with Peter Morris and Stephen Fatsis. I would say my research gave them a lot of background material, which they otherwise lacked. And they acknowledge in the Slate article that came out in 2014, they acknowledged me by name as being instrumental in getting them pointed to the death certificate of William Edward White.
Okay.
Now hold up now. Before you came on, I told them about findagrave.com. Tell them that story. Tell them that.
Oh, I created that page for William Edward White. I'm the one that made it. I'm the one that maintains it. And I created it in early 2014. I believe it was January of 2014. I'd have to look it up to verify that. But it was during the time when I was corresponding with Stephen Fatsis and with Peter Morris. And they were about to come out with the Slate article. It was about to be published. And in the Slate article, they were actually going to reveal to the world the fact that they had discovered William Edward White's death certificate, which actually says on it that he was Caucasian, white. So I had said to them, well, look, I've created this Find a Grave page for William Edward White, and I sent them the link so that they could look at it and, give me their feedback and their approval or whatever the case may be. And they asked me, would I please hold off on adding the death certificate to that page until after the Slate article came out, because they didn't want the scoop to be taken away from them. And I can understand that. I don't blame them. That's their right, their prerogative. So I very quickly agreed to abide by their wishes, of course. But as soon as the Slate article came out, I immediately added the death certificate to the Find a Grave page with their permission, with their blessing. So that's the story of the Find a Grave page. But I don't think I'm the one that put the two and two together to figure out that William Edward White was both African-American and the first ever African-American Major League Baseball player. I'm not the one that did that. That would have been Peter Morris and Stephen Fatsis, the two of them, primarily Peter Morris.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Great.
So they really deserve the credit for that. They came to me because they saw that I had done a lot of background research, not only on William Edward White, but especially on his family, the background he came from. And that's what they did not have much of at that point. They knew all about his college career and his baseball career, however brief it was. And they knew a little bit about his further life in Chicago and as an older man, but they knew very little about his background in Georgia. So that's what I provided for them.
Well, and one of the things that the article in 2004 that started me on my journey, it came short, okay, because it ended up as if William Edward White was buried at the cemetery in Milner, Georgia, which until I found findagrave.com, that was not the case. So although you do see photos in the book of both websites, you will not see the photo in the book with me with my arms around the headstone of the slave owner, Captain A.J. White. I didn't put that picture in there, but I do have a picture of the gravestone. Hey, Linda, I see you shaking your head. I also got a picture of Ray Jr., who was reluctant on the ground with his arm around the—
breaking up a little bit.
With his arm around the headstone as well. That one's not in there. So, but we did take the picture in Chicago. Ramona was in fact the photo. So you'll get a chance to see that. And I will tell you that Terrence's entire article and research on the White family is in the book. Mm-hmm. So I want to thank him profusely for that because that lends the credibility to, hey, this is an actual person that went for right now, it seems obvious reasons as to went totally under the radar. And we're going to bring that out.
Hey, Al.
Please.
Al, this is Arnold. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Al. Yeah, at what point I haven't read the book, but at what point in the book is it discovered when this young man, whatever age he was, 15, 16, 17, that he knew he had baseball skills and how to apply it and who coached him?
Well, that's kind of interesting. Stay tuned in the screenplay as to how I pull that out. I got a real clever way to do that. Okay. But as Terrance White here tells me, and I didn't know this until our interview, until we talked last week, is that both the daughters and the son were sent off to boarding school. Am I right, Terrance?
Yes, that's right.
And see, how he would have picked those skills up may have been at boarding school rather than on the plantation. Okay, so.
Or both,
you
or
know,
maybe both.
So quite possibly, quite possibly. But you know, there's a lot of untold story. I mean, when you think about Babe Ruth and being from an orphanage, and I got to tell you something, I think Babe Ruth has got some black in him. Okay, going in his family, in his genealogy. So you just don't know. But that's a good question, Arnold. But in the movie, okay, in my mind's eye, I have a real clever way of bringing that out in his skill sets.
I'll look forward to seeing that.
Okay, yeah, well, me too.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing it also. Yeah, that's a very good question.
Okay, well, great. Well, I'm gonna tell you something. It is just, you guys have just been incredibly gracious for taking the time to be with us. Ashley, I can't thank you enough. Okay. Gary, I like that background, man, that solar system.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to sign off and thank you so much for all of you and your time.
Congratulations again.
All right, Luther, we'll see you when we get back in town.
All right. Looking forward to it. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Stay
guys.
well, folks.
Bye, everyone.